All right, so we just heard the announcement. Looks like it's going to be highly likely that Jake Paul's next fight is going to be against Anderson Silva, set for the end of October. Really interesting. I didn't expect something like this. That's not the fight that I would have expected to see. But let's think about this for a second, okay? Now, when we think about Jake Paul, quite the character, right? Quite the character. Very interesting, right? Those of us who thought that maybe him coming into boxing was going to be a one and done, flash in the pan, just kind of a marketing gimmick, and really it was just a bridge into something else. Safe to say that isn't the case, right? Now, it's easy to look at this guy and think two things. On the one hand, you can make the argument that he's a real fighter. Why would I say that, right? I'm sure there's people already who want to smash on that thumbs down button and talk crazy about me just very mentioning the words, right? But hear me out. He appears to be taking training seriously. And I say that because, one, he brings a camp around him that's legit. He's got a legit camp, right? Former fighters, trainers, things like that, guys who know what they're doing. He's got experience in his corner. He's being trained properly. So the fact that he surrounds himself with those guys. Number two, he's continually increasing the level of competition. Yeah, we can talk crazy all we want about the guys that he's fighting in the sense that they're not fighters or they're old or they're past their prime, and all of those things may be true. But this is a guy who's coming from no experience. Usually when guys have the experience level that Jake Paul have, we never hear about him. We never see him, right? They toil in the shadows. Everything they do, there's no cameras, there's no microphones. Nobody's doing anything like that because they're nobodies. By the time these guys are on pay-per-view events or their main events, and they're on things like Showtime, and they're having press conferences and build-ups to their fights, but by the time guys are doing stuff like that, they've got a decade or more experience, right? These are polished fighters, guys who've come up through the amateur and the professional ranks, who also have fought increasing levels of competition. Now let me just throw something out there quick, okay? Floyd Mayweather, one of the greatest to ever do it, goes to the Olympics, wins a bronze medal. Okay, so just stop right there. Think about the snapshot of his life, his career, the way his father, Floyd Sr., the way his uncles, Roger and Jeff, were involved in boxing, the levels that they got to, the things that they were able to accomplish. That's been his whole life. He's coming all the way up. He makes it all the way to the Olympics and wins the bronze medal. So you think about the skill level that he has. You think about where he's at mentally, his ability, his understanding as a fighter. You think about what he's accomplished and the people that he's fought and everything. Okay. And now go look at the dude he fought in his first fight, his first professional fight. I mean, smokes the dude. He didn't stand a chance, right? But go back and look at that level of competition, the skill level that had, man, or the second fight, or the third fight, or the fourth fight, or any of those things, right? My point being, the way Jake Paul is handling it, in a lot of ways, is the way you see a traditional professional fighter's career advance. That's the way you see guys progress. You don't start out at the top. We just all happen to know his name, so we're seeing it from day one. And to be perfectly honest, he's moving at a quicker rate than you would see from guys. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Nevertheless, that's what we're seeing. Those are the arguments you can make that this guy is a real fighter. Appears to be taking it seriously, professional team, skills continuing to progress, increasing the level of competition. In some ways, what we see is all part of a gimmick as well. Because of the guys that he's picking, the way that he's marketing the fights. Let's not forget that he just dropped this fight with Hakeem Rockman Jr. Why do you think he did that? I mean, I get it. He comes out and he's talking about, Rockman can't make the weight and this and that. Dude, all of that was a ploy. The fact that he chose him in the first place was because he had been in sparring with him before, so he thought he knew him. He was trying to drain him down in weight. He was coming off of this knockout loss. Everything that he was doing was an attempt to just get hit. Jake Paul was attempting to get Rockman's name on his resume because of how that was going to look. That's an old ploy. We've seen it time and time again throughout the years from fighters, from promoters, different kinds of things. Didn't work out for him here. And I think a lot of people realized that he was the one who pulled out of that fight, tried to come up and manufacture the thing about the weight. It was a bad move for him, and I think that he saw the writing on the wall and that he was going to go out there in front of everybody. He was going to get his head knocked off most likely by a man who's a better fighter than him. And it was going to end a lot of what he has going on, because a lot of what he has going on is based on the ability that he's able to continue to progress and continue to win. He can't take a loss and have it not affect him drastically. A lot of fighters take a loss, man. They'll be fine. They can bounce back from it. But, part of the thing with him being this YouTube guy and this social media star and the way that he's crafted all of this is that he continues to win. So he has to continue to win. So it drops out of that one. We knew something else was coming. Fast forward, we get the announcement that it's going to be him and Anderson Silva. Dangerous fight in some ways, right? Like, make no mistake about it. Anderson Silva is a far more skilled fighter than Jake Paul. This man was considered Pound for pound, the best in the UFC when he was at his prime by a mile. Everybody talks about him still as the GOAT. A guy who you may consider the GOAT, John Jones considers Anderson Silva the GOAT. Right? Go back and look at those highlights. Look at what he does. Anderson Silva, to me, the way he was using the knees against Rich Franklin, the way he was going out there, the way he smashed Stephen Bonner in the solar plexus with that knee up at 205, just, the way he caught Forrest Griffin with the counter shots. I mean, the things that he was able to do when he was at his prime were just absolutely ridiculous. What about the front kick to the face of Vitor Belfort, man? To those of us who saw it live, I mean, that's something, how are you ever going to forget it? That's Anderson Silva, right? An absolute icon, a legend. He'll always be that guy in my mind. But let's not also forget who the last times that we've seen him out there. He wasn't that guy anymore. He was a guy who was getting caught and hurt, a little bit chinny. Right? Why? It's easy. Fighting adds up on you, man. Wear and tear adds up on you. How old a fighter is not measured by the years on his birth certificate. The age of a fighter is measured by the amount of damage he's taken. And even in his prime, as elusive as he was, Anderson Silva used to love to play to the crowd at times. He'd put his hands down. He'd caught with some shots. He could take it. I just mentioned that Stephen Bonner fight, a much bigger man. Look at that fight. He backs himself up against the cage, calls Stephen Bonner in, avoids a lot of the shots, but eats a few. That's a big guy that's just teeing off on you with your back against the cage. Right? And over the course of his career, the shots from Chris Weidman, the way he broke his leg, this and that, the fact that he's old now. Look at how long he's been doing it, right? He's actually old now. All of those things add up to the point that Jake Paul thinks he's going to get a win. Again, thinks he's going to get a big name guy on his resume. I get it. Right? We're seeing the same thing play out again. Makes perfect sense. But this will be by far the most skilled fighter that he's faced. Anderson Silva is no joke, right? It's easy to look and think he's an MMA guy. This is boxing. He's going to be limited. Some of the same things aren't going to work. The stances, the movement, the angles, all of these things. And in a way, it's right. But Anderson realizes that as well, man. He's got a very, very strong background just in traditional boxing. I encourage you to go watch his fight against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. Now, Chavez Jr. was a world champion at one point at 160 pounds. When he was training, when he was focused, when he was locked in and on, he was a force to be reckoned with. Now, his problem was that he wasn't always locked in. His problem was that he wasn't always focused. Son of a legend, parties a lot. We saw him in eating Cheerios at 11 o'clock in the morning, jumping into the pool, walking around in his underwear and stuff. Back when HBO 24/7 was going on, we saw him moving furniture out of the living room and having the living room training sessions, not wanting to show up at the wild card back when he was training under Freddie Roach. We saw all those things. That's what led to his downfall. It wasn't that he was not a skilled fighter. It was never that he didn't know how to fight. It was his focus. It was determination. So my point in saying all that is, you go back and you watch that fight with Anderson Silva, and you can see from the very first round that Anderson Silva knows how to move. He knows how to carry himself in the ring against a professional boxer, a former world champion. He's moving around well. He's using good footwork, good head movement. He's landing the jab. He's just doing things, man. He's doing well. You can understand that, right? You go in there and you see him against a bum like Tito Ortiz, knocks him out right away. Basically what you would expect. So now when we see him in there against Jake Paul, let's not forget Jake Paul is, he's got some athleticism. He's continually progressing. You can see he's getting better hand speed. Things are becoming more crisp. He's understanding how to fight a little better. All those things. I think he might be the bigger guy. I don't know what weight this fight's going to be held at, but don't forget that for the longest, Silva fought at 185. I'm pretty sure this fight's going to be higher than that, maybe 200 or something. I don't know. I haven't seen that yet. Nevertheless, this is going to be a lot for Jake Paul. I think there's going to be some times when he looks good. I think what he's really, really hoping for is the fact that he can catch Anderson Silva slipping, that he's old, that his reflexes are a little bit off, that he likes to engage the crowd a little bit, that his style is, both aggressive but also not aggressive, and he's just hoping to catch him. Jake Paul's got a good right hand, right? Decent amount of pop on it. Anderson Silva being older and chinny, I think he's hoping to catch him. I think he's hoping to make a big statement. I don't think his intention is to go out there and outbox him for 8 rounds or 10 rounds or however long they make this fight for. Maybe it is. Maybe that's the way that it goes. I'm sure that he'll have a good jab and try to understand distance, but I think he's going to go out there and try to be aggressive, try to land hard shots on him. And maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. It's interesting. I'll tell you what. I'll tell you this for sure. Man, I want to see Anderson Silva win. I really, really do. There is no way in the world that I'm going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to be comfortable with a man like Jake Paul getting a win over a legend like Anderson Silva at this point in his career. Feels like he would be taking advantage of him a little bit. And I don't say that to downplay Anderson Silva or what he brings to the table. I just mean it in the sense that this is 100% a fight that he's trying to cherry pick his name and get him on his resume. Not a fan of it with a guy who's a legend. Right? So I hope he goes out there, lands some big shots of his own, upsets the apple cart, completely flips whatever it is that Jake Paul has planned, and tears his head off. So let me know what you guys think. As this fight gets a little bit closer, I'll be analyzing some stuff and breaking it down a little bit more, right? This was kind of more just a general overview, kind of a first thoughts, but let me know what you guys think. I don't know, what do you think Anderson Silva still has? What do you think he's bringing to the table? What do you think Jake Paul has? I mean, he's very, very smart when it comes to marketing and social media, so you have to think that he's taking this fight because he thinks he can win. Is that going to be the case? Let me know what you guys think.